Hey everybody, this is the Stuff I Heard podcast, and I'm your host, Joshua Peak. Let's record, shall we? Hey everybody, today happens to be August the 3rd, 2019. Happy birthday to my wife's sister, Cindy. Happy birthday, Cindy, we love you. She lives in Augusta, Georgia, and my wife and her, even though they're sisters, are really, really close friends. They talk on the phone all the time, and they're so adorable. They both look really similar. When they go out in public, people ask them often, "Are you guys twins?" And they're a couple years apart in age, so it's always funny to go, "Yeah, my mom just decided to have me a few years earlier." But anyway, happy birthday, Shinny. And tomorrow's my grandson's birthday. Happy birthday, Jackson. Little guy. You probably aren't going to watch this for years, or may never watch it, but I get to spend the day with you today because your mama's going to drop you off on the way to work. And your dad's working, and everybody's busy, but I'm here because it's Saturday. And you can count on Papa. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about Stuff I Heard, because this is the Stuff I Heard podcast, right? Stuff I Heard, baby. Okay, so one of Joe Rogan's best farmer friends, Maynard James Keenan, lead singer of Tool. I talked about that last week. I finished listening to the rest of the episode. It was really good. The guy is super smart, and you can tell they're buddies. That was good. I actually went and watched Whitney Cummings' Netflix special. I listened to her on the podcast, and she brought in an animatronic sex doll that's sort of been altered with her face. She had her own face done. You can see images and videos of this. If you watch her Netflix special, it's like the last part where the credits are rolling. They show you how they made her face on the robot look like her face. And on the show, Joe and her name the thing Bear Claw. They start calling it Bear Claw during the show, which is pretty funny. But her Netflix special that she has out now called Can I Touch It is good. I talked my wife into watching it, and she said it made her dizzy. I think I'd be willing to say that my wife is not a comedy fan. I think I'm a comedy fan. I think I give people allowances a lot of the times because I'm looking for a premise, or I'm looking for an idea or something that I share in common with them as funny. And I tend to allow people their flaws, and I don't know if that's because of the household I grew up in. Because let's face it, we're all flawed, okay? Every one of us. Whether you want to admit it or not, whether you want to think that your poop don't stink, listen, we are all very flawed. And in our particular household growing up, flaws were on our sleeves, and we used humor to sort of misdirect attention. So my stepdad was kind of the polarizing portion of this because we spent a lot of time with him. My mom worked a lot, and she went to college full time, and so I spent a lot of time with my stepdad, Dave. And growing up in that house, Dave was a very strong personality. And when it came time to sit around and eat or have a conversation, you had to be at his level of energy and his level of conversation at all times. Otherwise, you didn't have anything to say, and you sort of felt left out. I mean, it was sort of like an introduction to comedy in a lot of ways. He was a big fan of comedy. He would really enjoy all of the comedy stuff that's going on right now with social media and with podcasting and with the internet. He would enjoy this tremendously. And, you know, growing up in that house, we would learn what made other people laugh. We would learn to have our own taglines in on jokes. And we would compete with each other to see who was the loudest or the funniest or who had the zinger that nobody thought of. And it was fun. It was a fun type of way of surviving in the house with each other. There were elements where if we went too far, he'd go, okay, that was too far. Just calm down. Of course, I try to think of myself like if I were in his shoes today. You know, I raised 3 boys, and I'm like, okay, what part of that did I borrow from? Because we would sit down to the dinner table at our house, and when we ate dinner, my wife would, you know, do her normal job, then come home, you know, gather up kids from 3 different schools, come home, cook dinner, get them to do their homework, and then I'd come in and I'm, you know, been working for 14, 15 hours a day, have a shower, sit down at the table, go to eat, and I'm making jokes, and they're giggling and not eating, and I could just imagine that I pissed my wife off the entire time. So maybe all of this is sort of my fault. Maybe I am the reason that she doesn't enjoy comedy as much as I do. Or maybe it's just a character difference. Maybe I just enjoy it a little more than she does. I mean, the podcasts that I listen to the most, if I'm just like an external person looking in, the podcasts that I listen to the most are all comedians, pretty much, except for Dr. Drew. But Dr. Drew's a comedian fan. I mean, his show, Dr. Drew After Dark, he tends to have comedians on there, and part of the question that he asked them is what happened to you, what happened to your brain, so that you ended up doing this as a profession? How did you get into comedy is one of his questions. That's one of the main things that I listen to Joe Rogan talk about. It's one of the main things I listen to Bert Kreischer talk about. They tend to have podcasts on with other comedians, and a lot of their discussion is about getting started and how they got started and how they're moving forward and how they're learning to craft their ability to make people laugh and to make them forget about their day. You know, Bert talks about on his podcast, the Bertcast, how he and his wife, Leanne, are very different in a lot of ways, in that he's like, I think my podcast, people tune in so that they forget about their day, much like my comedy. He said, my comedy is not the kind of comedy that makes you think. I'm not there to make you, you know, feel bad about yourself, and I never want you to walk away thinking, oh geez, what an exhaustion that was. I want to be a silly goof on stage, and I want you to, even if it means laughing at me because I'm taking off my shirt and I'm overweight, do that. I want you to walk away from my show feeling good about yourself and being happy. And he's like, Leanne is the kind of person that looks inward, and she likes to make people think about growth and, you know, spiritual growth, physical growth, mental growth, how to come together as a community. She likes to tackle things that are difficult. She likes to make you think about things. And I think it's very similar with me and my wife. I think that I tend to, well, I mean, generally speaking around here, I'm the guy that fixes everything, but I'm also the guy that sort of makes jokes all the time. And I think that's a continuation of things that happened to me when I was young. It was learned behavior. I don't think that my wife had an opportunity growing up to have a lot of humor in her life. She's had a very hard life growing up. She had to grow up in a hurry. She's the oldest of several kids, and it was put on her shoulders to take the brunt of helping feed and take care of these kids while her mom worked. I was kind of in the same situation, but with a lot less kids. My sister's 6 years younger, and my brother's 12 years younger, so I didn't have to do as much of it as she has. So I don't even think that comedy is on her radar as much as it is mine. If I look at my wife's podcast, hers are mostly about Disney. I mean, she listens to me mostly out of obligation. I've never asked her to. I've never been like, oh, you gotta ask me, you gotta listen to this and check it out. I mean, she supports me. She's like in my corner. And that's one of the things I love most about her. But if you looked at our podcast list of things we listen to, you go, oh, well, Josh is a comedy fan and Dolores likes Disney. Okay. There's nothing taken away from that. But like, there's a lot of comedy specials that I enjoy that I'm like, oh, you gotta check this out. It's just really funny. She halfway smirks at it, or kind of, yeah, okay. Whereas I'm getting I don't know, I'm looking at the joke from a lot of different ways. I'm looking at how did they get there? How did they find the premise? How did they craft it? How long did it take for them to craft this joke? Is there a reason, Is it just a popularity thing? Like, she really enjoyed Kevin Hart's last special and was like, oh, that was really great. And I was like, yeah, I didn't. I didn't enjoy Kevin Hart's last special. To me, it was him playing off his celebrity more than the actual jokes. There wasn't many jokes in that special. It really wasn't. If you're a Kevin Hart fan, you're like, oh, that was really great because you bought into his celebrity and you're just basically a celebration of the fact that he's an entertainer. But if you're judging the comedy, it's not that good. It's really not. Whereas there's other ones that are really fantastic. I still say that Bert Kreischer's Secret Time is one of the best comedy specials I've ever seen on Netflix. It is. It's funny. The whole thing is funny. And I don't know if part of it's because I listened to his podcast. I listened to him craft those jokes through conversations on his podcast. He's told some of those stories before, and he's gone on stage and told it and retold it in different ways so that he could kind of, it's sort of like a craftsman sharpening a tool. You keep working on that tool until it's perfect, or as perfect as you can get it, and then you put it on stage. And I still say that that's one of the funniest specials I've watched. And don't get me wrong, my wife is a comedy fan of some people. Like, she likes Eliza Schlesinger. She thinks she's hilarious. But I don't think my wife goes on Netflix and goes, who else is out? Who else has got a comedy special out? I only watched that one. I've heard of them. Whereas I'm that person. I'm the person that seeks these people out. I'm the person that goes, who is this person? Let me find them. I want to listen to their comedy. Even if I don't know who they are, I kind of want to hear what they say, because maybe they've got a funny premise. Maybe it's somebody I've never heard before. Maybe they're just not on my radar. I've been watching on Netflix the Jerry Seinfeld Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. And like I said before, they have a new season out, which I haven't watched any of the new stuff, but I went back and I started watching the first season. And I'm watching these comedians and I'm thinking, okay, well, none of these are the people I listen to their podcasts. I don't recognize anybody yet as someone that I listen to on a regular basis, except for Bill Burr. He had Bill Burr on, which was great. I mean, Bill deserves to be on there. But there's a lot of comedians that should be on there. Which means he's got an endless supply of shows to do, right? I mean, essentially. I'd like to hear Jerry Seinfeld go on Joe Rogan's podcast. I mean, Jerry's show is very controlled and you only see portions of it. Each episode is maybe 16, 18 minutes long. He did a double episode with Jimmy Fallon. Like the first half of the episode was him riding in a car. The second one was him on a boat. I don't exactly understand that part. I guess they just had such a good time together. He was like, just keep it rolling, just keep it rolling. But like a podcast would be that way. You don't hear a lot of their conversations. Like there's a lot of them talking and walking or, talking in the car that you don't hear. And maybe Jerry's afraid to be on something like Joe Rogan's podcast. Or maybe he's never asked. Maybe Joe's never asked. I don't know. Kind of leaves a big question mark, right? Because Joe's had on tons of people. I mean, tons of people. And it's not, it's a very eclectic group. Basically, Joe will talk to anybody, I think, as long as he has an interest in him. And I know he has an interest in Jerry Seinfeld. He knows who he is. But just looking at the lineup, there's an episode that came out this past Tuesday on the Joe Rogan Experience with Mike Baker. I want to hear this. I've heard him before. He's a former CIA covert operative. He's currently the president of Diligence LLC, a global intelligence and security firm. This guy's pretty interesting. I've heard him before. I kind of want to hear that one again, or hear this new one, coming up. Lots of good stuff. Anyway, I listened to the Birdcast this past week. This Wednesday, he did an episode with Natasha Leggero and Moshe Kasher. Now, I first got introduced to both of them, I think, through listening to Pete Holmes. Pete Holmes has a podcast called You Made It Weird. And I think he's friends with both of them. And then I heard both of them on Doug Loves Movies with Doug Benson. And they're both really good comedians. They're both hilarious. Well, now they're married and they have a kid. And they've been doing a show. They have a show on Netflix where basically each of them do a half hour, and then they come up at the end and they do some time at the end with the question and answer and talking to the crowd and that kind of stuff. Anyway, they have a podcast now called Endless Honeymoon Podcast. And I haven't listened to it yet, but I'm a big fan of both of them, so I may check it out. Again, see, here's an example. Comedy fan, I'm going to check it out. If I'd have realized this about myself years ago, I might have become a comedian. I might have gone on stage and told jokes for a living. I don't know if I could have wrote any jokes, or I don't know, maybe I'd just be an agent or a producer or something, director. Something. I'd be in the comedy world somehow more than I am now. I mean, I realize I have a sort of a draw to it. But anyway, this is a good podcast. It's 2 hours, just over 2 hours. I think the first 8 minutes or so is Bert reading ads. And he actually does a good job in these ads because he talks about the fact of, he's like, I try to make it smooth and transitional. And I know you guys, you're getting a free podcast, but this helps me pay for everything around here. So just humor me. Listen to my ads. Let me get through it. And I feel the same way. I mean, listen, I know that you guys listen to my podcast, and every once in a while I have to break into a segment and post a ad. And right now it's just Anchor. Anchor is the only ad I have. And who knows, this may grow in the future, and I'll get an engineer to help me figure out where to place it and how to do it the right way, and have like a little thing that has like a sound effect where you guys go, oh, this is the ad. Okay, I can skip this part. But right now it's just me. This is the solo Josh doing it all thing. I'm in my spare bedroom that used to be my son's. It became an exercise room, and now we jokingly call it the podcast studio. Because that's where the table is and the chairs are and the equipment that I leave hooked up when I'm not having to deconstruct it and take it on location. But this is kind of the deal. This is what I was aiming for, pretty much. Although I do have a spare chair here with another microphone that is open to people to come on and be a part of. I have had a few guests, and I'll have some more, hopefully. Maybe some folks would like to come back on and be a part of this. If so, reach out to me, let me know. I've got nothing but free time, baby. I do have a vacation coming up that I'm going to have to figure out how to work around, because I've been doing 2 a week forever, for over a year. And I may just have to do a podcast and be like, all right, I'll see y'all guys when I get back. Peace out. Maybe I've got enough of a following I can get away with that now. I don't know, we'll see. Let's talk a little bit about, let's talk about a show that's on Netflix called Another Life. Katie Sackhoff is the main character. She's done a lot of science fiction stuff in the past. You may recognize her from Pitch Black. She was in that with Vin Diesel. Gravelly voice. Vin Diesel. Hi, Vin Diesel. I don't know if he talked like that, but I can't do his voice. Anyway, she's a really good actress. She's very fit. She looks like she can kick your ass. I mean, she has that kind of physical nature about her. I mean, my wife, when she started working out, she told me at a certain point, she's like, I want my shoulders to look like I work out even when I'm not even flexing. And that's what Katie Sackhoff's arms look like. I mean, she's got a lot of scenes where she's wearing like sleeveless stuff, like a body armor chest thing, but her arms are exposed, and you can tell her arms are really in shape. I mean, she's definitely worked out a lot to get those arms. The show is great. The show is weird. The show is everything that I wanted the show to be. When I saw the previews for this show, I was like, holy crap, this could be awesome. And it is. It's awesome and it's weird. It's weird in a way that you can tell that they're trying to appeal to a 2019 audience. I mean, there's a transgender dude in there, and there's a love triangle in there, and there's a gay relationship or two that they talk about. But moving forward past that, I mean, you got to picture this is supposed to be sci-fi. This is about the future. They don't talk about that being anything to do with their life. It's just a side component of their life. They have a mission to do. They have something they're going to do. They're sparked to move in a direction, and they go in that direction. They don't spend a lot of time explaining the tech, because it's like, listen, just take it for granted. We're going to move forward. This is what we're doing. Boom. And they just go with it. Okay? It's really good. It's really good. The show is really good. The premises are really interesting. The idea of alien life and interaction with alien life is a big question mark. And they ask a lot of those questions on the show. And they introduce you to things that you think are one thing and then show you another thing. And every step of the way it makes you think of what if we get to this point? Or what happens when we get to this point? I could just imagine the writers sitting around and saying, well, yeah, but of course, just because it looks this way doesn't mean it has this characteristic. So there's all these little steps along the way that they pay attention to and they address in a way that is interesting. And it's an easy watch. I mean, there are some graphic, disgusting stuff in it, but they're not over the top with anything particularly vulgar. The disgust is more like a gross, kind of deal. But it's interesting. The show is done well. This is sort of, to me, this is like Star Trek in the beginning. When you first watch Star Trek, I first watched Star Trek as a kid. The idea that they would go to other planets and then they would interact with things and people, they would interact with alien life, and they weren't exactly like us. And you had to quickly accept the fact that, okay, just because they look different doesn't mean they're not still relative and deserve attention, deserve consideration and stuff like that. So anyway, kudos out to the people who wrote and created the show and all the actors and actresses. Y'all did a great job. Season 1 was fantastic. I am excited to see what's going to happen in Season 2. So far, I'm in. I mean, dude, I've already added it to my list. I'm going to watch more episodes. It's great. 10 episodes. They're about 50 minutes long. It's easy to watch. You can blow through it in no time. So anyway, I just got a Consumer Reports in the mail. Okay? And I'll show the cover to the YouTube page so you guys can see what it looks like. But it says, Consumer Reports, cable wants you back. Fighting competition from streaming services, cable vows. It's new and improved. How to build the best TV package for you. And it's a picture of a cable box with a bunch of roses on top of it with a note that says, I've changed. I swear. Now this is coming at an interesting time because everyone knows who listens to this podcast that I cut the cord a long time ago. I cut the cord, 2 years ago? A year and a half ago? I got rid of our satellite DirecTV a while back. And we've done nothing but Netflix and HBO, thanks to my brother. And Hulu, thanks to my mom. And we've not missed cable. There are elements, like during football season, where I wish I had the ability to just flip a channel and be like, there it is. Instead, I gotta look for it. I gotta look for it online, and sometimes I can't watch it. Sometimes I'm out of luck. Oh well, you don't get it, Josh. Too bad. My brother had the idea of hey, what if we wait till football season and then sign up for one of these packages with like Sling TV or Direct TV or the Direct Now app or even Spectrum now has their own Spectrum app. A lot of people are putting their stuff on app form, which is great because I've already got the Fire Sticks on all the TVs. He's like, what if we wait till football season and we sign up for one of these? We watch football, and then when football's over, we just cancel the thing. Because, I mean, that's basically what we're watching it for, right? And I was like, yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, he watches more sports. He's younger, and he's a PE coach and an actual coach. he coaches basketball and volleyball. But he's more in tune with sports. Like he watches everything. He watches baseball and basketball and all that stuff. I don't. I mainly just watch college football. A little bit of pro games once in a while. But anyway, why would I need to pay for a service year round for a whole bunch of crap I don't watch? Netflix does a great job of keeping me entertained. Amazon Prime does a great job of keeping me entertained. Amazon Prime is constantly coming out with new content that I find very interesting. These companies are spending billions of dollars to try and get us to be regular viewers. In this Consumer Reports, they talk about Apple coming up with their own content. They're spending billions of dollars to create their own content. And just reading about the people who are involved, it's going to be stuff where you're going to go, geez, I wish I had that service. I mean, it's a draw. It's going to be really good stuff. Disney Plus is coming out soon. That's going to be another service that you're going to be like, wow, I wish I had that. And sort of, in this conversation, it's like, cable companies are trying to say, hey, you're spending this much per month with this service and this service and this service. Listen, we offer all that stuff for a little bit less money. Which is true if you buy all of that crap. If you spend the money for all of those services, you're spending a lot of money. You're also not able to watch it all. It's sort of like being Jay Leno, okay? Everybody knows Jay Leno's a car guy, but he's only got one ass to sit in, right? So he's got all these car seats and all these cars. He's only got one butt to put in the driver's seat. After a while, it's just like, yeah, there's a lot there. I mean, the same is true with TV. You've only got so much time. You've only got so much interest. You've only got so much availability to spend doing anything. If you don't choose to commit to a show nowadays, it's like, well, the show could go on, but I won't see it. I felt that way when Walking Dead came out. Back in the day when Walking Dead was on TV, everybody was, raving about, oh, you gotta watch Walking Dead. I was like, nope, I'm watching this other show. I was the same way about Big Bang Theory when it came out. I was watching a show called Chuck. They came on at the same time. People were calling me going, you gotta watch Big Bang. I'm like, no, I'm invested in Chuck. I don't have time to watch that other show. Back then there was no DVR. And even if there was one, I couldn't afford one. Back then I had the rabbit ears. I was watching it in my living room with rabbit ears. And now, full circle, all these years later, I'm watching things with rabbit ears. But anyway, it's a very interesting breakdown in this Consumer Reports. I highly recommend checking it out if you don't have it and you see it. Maybe you're traveling and you need something to read. It's a pretty good read. Hang on a second. I gotta reset my camera because it's gonna... I still gotta get a different camera for this podcast. This camera is a regular camera, okay? Just a regular digital camera. And it only records up to 28 minutes and then it shuts off, right around 30 minutes. That's the max it'll do, it'll shut off. It has something to do with the file size or something. I wish I had a feature that it would just automatically keep recording but split the file up into multiple files, but it doesn't. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. You guys don't give a crap about that. There's a lot of stuff in this Consumer Reports, and I read all of it this morning. I got up early this morning, had some coffee, and started reading, and there's a lot of information in here, not just about cable and your options for that, but there's a big section in here that has to deal with electric vehicles. And one of their articles says, Beyond Tesla, top electric vehicles for every budget. There's a lot of information in here about electric vehicles. They break down a lot of things having to do with Tesla, with Jaguar, with Hyundai, with BMW, Nissan, Chevy. Chevy has the Bolt, BMW has the i3, Hyundai has the Kona Electric, which they give really high ranking to. Apparently, the Hyundai has the Kona Electric that gets like 258-mile range, and the price starts at $36,900, and it gives like a 78 overall score, which is really good. They give the Tesla Model 3 a 65 overall score. It says that they give it some bad ratings when it comes to reliability. I'm not exactly sure why. The Nissan Leaf looks like it gets the shortest range. It only gets like 140-mile range and has like the lowest score. It's like a 64 on the score. But the Chevy Bolt, okay, I've seen these in public. They look like little tiny hatchbacks. 250-mile range for $36,000. That's pretty darn good. But when you pick, if you're comparing apples to apples and you look at the scores of the Bolt versus the Hyundai, you're like, well, the Hyundai's better. You get 8 more miles in your range, and it has 7. It scored 7 better in your overall score, and it's the same price. So why wouldn't you check out both? I mean, unless you're just like, no, I'm a Chevy guy. I gotta have a Chevy. Whatever. Those loyalty people drive me crazy. Listen, I say that, and I'm a loyalty guy, mainly because of use, but I'm an Apple guy. Everything I've got is Apple now. I used to not be that way, but when I made the switch, I was so happy with Apple. I'm like, yep, I'm going to keep using Apple until there's something better. And when I'm riding with people and they go, yeah, I can't get my phone to do that. And I'm like, what are you using? Oh, I got a Droid. I'm like, well, here's why. You make good living now. You don't have to live like that. You can upgrade. So just know I'm a hypocrite, even when I'm saying stuff like that. They break down different things about the Jaguar I-Pace, which is really sexy looking. Even though it has an overall score of 58, it's got an awful score. 234-mile range, starting price $70,000. It looks really sexy. The picture does. It talks about charging at home. It talks about what it costs normally. It talks about where to find your charge, how to prepare for it, how to plan your trips and stuff like that. What are the pitfalls? That's one of the things I like about Consumer Reports is they don't have a loyalty. They don't accept money from anybody. They just tell you exactly what they learn. They'll buy these vehicles, they'll test drive them themselves. It's all a tax write-off for them because it's research. But they're non-biased. They just talk about what they learn. Just bare bones. Here it is. It says 10 more vehicles coming soon. They got the Audi e-tron, the Rivian SUV and truck. I've seen those on the internet. Those are really cool looking. I showed it to my wife though, and she's like, "That looks stupid." Okay, well, I like it. I think it's pretty cool. Volvo has something called the Polestar 2. Porsche has a Taycan, Taycan. Volkswagen has the ID3. See, everybody's getting into the electronic vehicle market. And because of that, it's going to become more reliable. Now, I said all that to say this. I'm an electronic vehicle fan. I am a Tesla fan. I went and saw Teslas at the sales place there outside of Charlotte with my buddy Greg. I've talked about that on the podcast. If you want to hear that, go back and check it out. Right now, it's not everywhere. Right now, it's not super reliable. Right now, the market is new. The idea is fairly new. But it is growing. It says in this Consumer Reports that right now, only 1.8% of our population drives electronic vehicles. But with them making more efficient vehicles that you can purchase for real car prices in line with the market, Tesla did that with the Model 3. They started selling those at $35,000, and they sold a lot of them. I mean, a lot of them. When you look at that, and you go, okay, well, obviously people have a desire for this. People are tired of their cars just being pieces of crap that are only good for a few years and then they're no good anymore. There is a section here where they talk about maybe it's the right idea to lease one of these vehicles because technology changes so rapidly. The vehicle that you buy now in 3 to 5 years is kind of worthless in a way. Who's going to want to buy your used whatever electronic vehicle with the out-of-date stuff? And that's sort of true. I mean, it's sort of like having the brand new phone, okay? Think about how technology changes in your phone. You got the brand new phone, you're enjoying the phone, you really like the phone, you use the phone every day. You can't stop yourself from touching the phone. The phone has got your attention and your interest, and it does work for you. You make that phone work, or at least I do. between podcasts and GPS and calculator and social media and the camera, the video, all that stuff, doing stuff on GarageBand, uploading podcasts, all that stuff is tied into that. I make my phone do work, okay? The same is true about an electronic vehicle. If you have an electronic vehicle and you're driving every day and you're enjoying all that it has to offer, let's say you're driving the newest Tesla right now. You're like, man, this is a really cool car. This is really awesome. Okay, fast forward 5 years and the next version of it comes out and it gets maybe 100 more miles in your distance, in your range. Well, you're going to be driving that vehicle thinking, well, crap, I need one of those. Well, you got to sell your vehicle. And then you got to find somebody who's going to buy your used Tesla. Whereas they're going to be looking at the new vehicle too going, wow, this one's got 100 more mile range. Why would I buy this one when I could buy it? You know what I mean? So there is a compelling argument in there about leasing an electronic vehicle. Elon Musk made a comment when he did Joe Rogan's podcast. He said, I think there's going to be a time pretty soon where no one owns a vehicle. We're just going to order a vehicle. We'll have an app on our phone and we'll say, I need a car. And a car will show up. They have the self-driving function now. He's like, there's going to be a time pretty soon where you just need a vehicle to go to work and you're just like, send me a car. And the car shows up, you hop in it, and it takes you to work. You don't have the cost of the ownership, you don't have the cost of any of the maintenance. You just use the service. Now see, for people who live in big cities, that's not a big deal because they already have that kind of stuff. They have public transportation, they have taxis, they have Ubers. If you live further out, that's more of a difficult hurdle to get around. There's also the question of reliability. If I own one of these and I need to charge it up, is the local station going to be up and running? Or are they going to have software issues? Or are they going to have hardware issues? Is the grid going to be down? Is there problems? See, the problems is the question mark, which is why hybrids look even more like the answer right now. I like these electronic vehicles because I live in a city that would support it here with our Tesla supercharging station up by the mall. To me, it's appealing in the fact that I only drive 10, 15 miles back and forth to work every day. I could go a long time without having the expense of gas, spark plugs, oil changes, all that crap. It's just simple transportation to get me to and fro work. But is it right for ownership versus leasing? I mean, I'm bought into the Dave Ramsey plan of not owning these vehicles, or of owning vehicles because of the fact that you don't have a payment. If you control your money that you have going out, you can control what your money does the rest of the time. He talks a lot about buying a vehicle that's 2 years old and spending cash for it and negotiating a good price. There's a lot to be said for that. There's also a lot to be said about technology and how it's changing and how it's driving our spending dollar and what we're spending money on. So, I don't know, there's a lot to consider there. It's very interesting. Anyway, that's called dead silence. Did you guys feel that? I felt it. If you're watching the YouTube video and you're looking at my shirt and going, what the heck is that on his shirt? This is a Bert Kreischer original shirt. This is a word that's in the shape of a bear's face, okay? The word is marshmallow. If you don't know what Marshmallow is, go on YouTube, type in Bert Kreischer, Kreischer, Bert, okay, Bert Kreischer, Marshmallow, Marshmallow. Watch the story about the bear with the marshmallow. I got the shirt because I liked that story so much. Anyway, shout out to Bert Kreischer. I know I've gone a couple episodes without mentioning him too much. People who were been listening to this in the beginning have wrote me and said, "Hey, you hadn't mentioned Bert lately." I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. Well, I got to get out of that." Hey, listen, Bert is back from his Body Shots World Tour. He's back in the States, and he is coming around to cities that he didn't go to the first time. He's got a fall tour. Go check his website out at the bertbertbert.com, BERT, and look up tour dates. He might be coming to a city near you. I highly recommend checking him out. He is working on his next hour, and he's going to be recording it later this year. I think he said in Cleveland. He's got like 4 shows planned in Cleveland where he's going to record for his next Netflix special, hopefully. Anyway, go check him out. Thanks for listening, everybody. I'm going to wrap this up. Go check out the new Consumer Reports, and if you got Netflix, check out Another Life with Katie Sackhoff. It's pretty darn good. Alright, that's it. Y'all take care, and tell your mama I say hi. Cue the cow, baby!